Welcome to GuySuCo Roundup. I'm your host, Curtis Ito. Another phase in our diversification venture is viewed as significant, promising, and most beneficial. Standardization of the final theoretical assessment for final year apprentices and sugar boilers, a main feature in the 68th year of the GuySuCo Training Center. The Information System Department to be transitioned to Head Office Complex at LBI Estate. Do stay tuned for more on this week's program of GuySuCo Roundup.
I am Peter Buru, champion for Elmore Estate 2015. GuySuCo is we own. We have to work for what we want. If we do not work, we cannot achieve. Everyone must come together to change GuySuCo into a strong business. Join me as I put GuySuCo first.
This week's newscast is buoyed by the encouraging signs around our ventures in the corporation. Here's Georgiana Bowler with the details.
GuySuCo has reported progress made in the diversification program being undertaken at the Wales Estate. With regards to the initial venture, rice cultivation, planting of seed paddy continues in preparation for harvesting in the last quarter of the year 2017.
We'll be working very closely with the Guyana Rice Development Board on the seed paddy project. And indeed, the total financing of $200 million has been provided by the GRDB by way of a loan. It was felt that our lands in the context of rice are really virginal lands, and they ought to produce an extremely good quality of seed paddy. And the intention really is to sell the seed paddy back to GRDB, who will then supply the local rice industry.
Meanwhile, the corporation and the Ministry of Agriculture, which commissioned a feasibility study into the prospects for aquaculture at Wales Estate, await submission of the final report in July.
We had commissioned a study, an aquaculture study, and we had the consultants visiting us recently, where we discussed the preliminary feasibility report. A number of questions were raised by ourselves as well as by the Ministry of Agriculture, and they've gone back now to take those questions on board and produce a final feasibility report for us by the end of July. Initially, what we're looking at is a pilot project at Wales of about 300 acres, focusing primarily on tilapia.
The final theoretical assessment for final year apprentices and the sugar boilers has been standardized. This assessment was administered at the GuySuCo Training Center recently.
Today we're going to do the trade test for each craft area, which is the instrument, the electrician, the fitter, auto, and the agri-mech, and also the sugar boiler. We form ourselves through the guidance of our HRD, Mr. John, and we came up with certain basic things that we're going to relook at. So in last year, June, we started looking at the syllabus for the apprentice, the craft. We start looking at the roles and the responsibility of the coordinators. We start looking at the in-plant training, which you guys are benefiting from. So what we did, we sat down and every estate had to pool questions from Ifla to Skeldon, and as the same team, we decide on the question on the way forward. So without any further ado, I expect that everybody give it their best today. Today is your day to prove yourself after 4 years.
So this form of evaluation is to bring some level of equity around all the estate and also to have a process where transparency is important. Good luck to each apprentice, and I wish you well.
The Information Systems Department, currently at Camp Street, Georgetown, is preparing to make its transition to GuySuCo's head office complex at the LBI Estate compound.
This is what we call home. It's been our home for what, 15, 20, close to, in fact, 20 years, over 20 years. Gotten very used to here, but soon we'll have to be out of here. By the end of the month, I think we will be in a position to start our transition. I'm saying start, because moving from here is not a one-day or one weekend process. It's actually going to be extended over 6 weeks, I think it is, for us to transition, because we have to do this without disrupting the operations of the rest of the company, and all of our servers are based here, so we're going to have to be doing things one bit at a time, and also we have to be, in doing that, we have to be mindful that things tend to go wrong when you're moving, and so we have to cater for a fallback position at all times, right? So you move something, but at the same time you have to be willing to fall back to ISD if something doesn't work, whatever it is. So all of that, the team, our team looking at that, led by Orson Smith, and they have come up with a very detailed plan as to how exactly they're going to make that transition. Just before we go, I just want to use this opportunity to recognize all the fathers we have in the department, because I suspect you'll be hearing this around Father's Day. So just to acknowledge the contribution of all the fathers and potential fathers in the department, and recognize the fact that we have very responsible individuals in the department, and so hopefully they share that same level of responsibility in their communities to inspire other fathers as well.
Currently, the iFlood factory uses a punt dumper to unload punts that transport canes from the current cultivation. Modifications are necessary, therefore, to accommodate farmers' canes, which are delivered to the factory in trailers.
This project started, you have to say, since October. We had to clear up the site here. We did the marking out to see where the piles is going to be driven. Then when finished marking out this, I went to Wales to start dismantle the gantry at Wales. It is now done. The process at Wales took about 7 weeks, because we had to build access bridge and all of this. We're making clearance to drive piles again. We got to drive piles still on the road. Still on the road. Because the gantry will be extending till on the center of the road. So the cane carts can come in under the gantry, pick up with the cane, and come straight to the feeder table.
Because of the fact that we have two forms of bringing canes to the factory, punts and trailers. So the cane gantry will facilitate those trailers that is coming from Wales. You would have heard on numerous occasions about the upgrading of iFlood to facilitate 40,000 tons within the next 3 years. The farmer plays an integral part in our achieving those objectives. And because of that, we have to put ourselves in a position to accommodate all our cane farmers. And with that goal in mind, this project is essential for us to come on stream so that iFlood will stay alive and be profitable. Basically, iFlood produces one of the best quality sugar within GuySuCo. And we do bulk as well as for local sales. When the need arises, we can make sugar for special market. So we don't see a problem as it relates to satisfying all the markets within that is required for GuySuCo to supply overseas, local, on the sugar market.
In efforts to mobilize residents, community leaders, and other actors on the west coast of Demerara area among the iFlood Estate Improvement Program, the corporation heightens its call for increased planters, cane harvesters, and cane transport workers to come on board and help develop the expanded cultivation, mainly through planting and harvesting. Recently, media practitioners were afforded an update on the activities of the improvement program.
The new GuySuCo, as we call it, will focus on both sugar and diversification. IFLOT forms a part of the sugar component of the new GuySuCo.
Over a year and a half ago, we would have started our drive of production. And that is, we would have recognized basically, in order to produce sugar, we have to have cane supplied to the factory. In so doing, we would have embarked on a vigorous program to ensure that we have our cultivation rehabilitated within the shortest possible time. This cultivation size is just 6,005.9 hectares. And we recognize also that the 6,005.9 hectares has been very challenging in terms of farming regarding the labor force we have turning out here. We would have just given out the contractor from the A line, that is canal number 1, to the back of this cultivation, that contract being handed out to the farmer last Thursday. Work will commence very shortly as he started to procure materials to come on board. But in the meantime, that work is going on. I still have quite a lot of interested farmers and canes to transport from canal. So we would have prepared our alternative route to accommodate what is it that we will be receiving from number 1 and the other farmers on board. The dedicated road that we have for them, which will be an all-weather road, work at this point in time where we are with it. That is one is at Leonora and the other one is at Anna Katrina. So the canes coming in from canal number 1 will come through those roads. Already would have given approval from the police to come out from Leonora to IFLOT to take the canes along the roadway and right into the IFLOT estate to lift and crush. These are the variety that will take us to 75 tons cane to the hectare within the next 3 years. What you see in here is basically, this is one of the nursery of the many we would have had over time, the most recent on this location. Beyond that, you will be able to see here, the 10 commercial varieties growing. These are fields waiting to be planted in the next half of this year, July to December. We are having them on the 6 months follow, and we will be ready to plant them by there about September, late September, October. That is what a unique flood follow field looking like. The dike of it is around that and polluted the water, and more than that, a flood follow field 6 months follow referred to, it's about a foot of water above the highest level, weed free.
So what you're seeing here is particular to IFLOT to facilitate that increase of 20,000 tons of sugar by 2020.
So some estates would have been as close as far to the potential, like Albion, that's close to its potential, close to about 80% of its potential. So any improvement is the next 20%. Like we say here is our 20,000 tons is actually half of the potential that you want to be. So we have to develop. Blaymont also is an estate that has the potential to go to 20,000 tons sugar, and it has to do some improvement. As we said earlier when you were working on Blaymont, they had that potential to go beyond the normal. So IFLOT, Blaymont and Albion are the 3 estates we slated to remain based on the sugar production. We'll have these similar programs to take them as far to the efficiency of the production potential and to go beyond.
How has been your expansion, your profitability over the last 2 years?
Well, I think the year before the prices were 59,000. This past year we got 72, so there have been an increase. You see, when you see that all that investment going there, I don't know why people are worried, you know. Why you gotta worry?
And that's news for this week.
Welcome to the Sweet Stories segment. This week we continue the story of Mr. Levi Ned. Sweet Stories is the segment of our program which takes you, our viewers, a little further into the lives of the people associated with sugar. highlighting their challenges, sources of strength, victories, and commitment to sugar. This week, we conclude the story of our Students Affairs Officer at the GuySuCo Training Center, Mr. Levi Ned, an accomplished athlete, singer, and social worker.
C'est mon histoire. Because of how I grew up, I do not want others to grow up like that. I want to give a helping hand. And that is why I actually pursued social work. I like helping people. I don't think I have enemies, and I hope I'm not going overboard. But my motto is just doing good. And I've found that doing good, good is following me. I'm a team player. If I have to do all of it, I do all of it for the sake of others, and I move on. I don't complain. Don't complain.
Mr. Ned has an eventful life and shares his best memory thus far.
My best memory, poverty. I lived by that rule. Many of us don't understand what poverty is, but I always remember this anecdote, this saying that I've had the blues of having no shoes, but when in the street I meet a man who hadn't any feet. So when I might have been saying that, I don't have shoes to put in my foot, there are people who don't have feet to put shoes on. And in as much I might talk about poverty, very bravely, very outwardly, there are others who were worse than me, but my times was, remember growing up and having to wear a set of uniform for 3 terms. I was matured, actually age 14, 15, and I still wore short pants and went to parties. I wore the hand-me-downs of shoes and so on for my brother. I'm more from the old school. The thank you, excuse me, pardon me, whatever and so on. And that is what it is all about. I enjoy doing that. I always remember that, what my mom did for me, because she worked with the British when they were in Guyana in the sugar plantation. And she learned a lot, all the social etiquettes and what have you and so on. And I had to go by that rule my time. And that is what I'm disseminating down to them now and teaching them. So I enjoy that. I reminisce a lot on that.
He proudly reflects on his greatest achievement.
The greatest of them was knowing to speak French, a foreign language, and having a stint at the international scene in football. I was once a goalkeeper in Martinique, and days where I learned to speak French extensively. Through the years, I've forgotten most of it, but I'm still there. I serve as an interpreter whenever we make overseas trips in French countries.
Mr. Ned has a zeal for working with young people, giving his time and energies in service as the Students Affairs Officer at the GuySuCo Training Center. He proudly recalls some of his achievements in this post.
There are so many of them. Since 2002, I've attended batches from then. It's just over 1,000 that would have passed through my hands here, who I would have fathered. And I know lots of them, even until now, those who are married and have kids, they still keep in contact with me. If there are situations, they will still get on to me. If in ways I can assist, a lot of them believe in me. A lot of the parents, I think, believe in me too. Even when there are issues at home, the parents would call to complain or to say, well, so. When these guys get married, I get numerous invitations, but I can't attend all the weddings, but I go to some of them and give my speeches and so on. Even when their wives give birth to kids and so on, they'd call, send the photographs. They'd even visit at times and bring the child for me to see. It's good to note that I can create an impact in people's lives. It's good to note. So I'm still in contact with them.
Levi coordinates most of the sporting activities at the Apprentices Training Center.
It's a collection of the institution itself. But just to say, when I came here on the 20th of October 2003, we had 3 trophies here. I can recall they're there, and then we started. The talent was there, the raw talent was there, just needed to be unearthed. Some persons may feel that it's not the right approach to have so much sports. But then, as I say, if you don't keep young people involved in using up their energies, and having them do things, you're in for a lot of problems. And my having to deal with over 100 persons and not having them into curtailed activities and to organize activities, I'm in trouble, just leaving them in the wonderland. And that is why I started. Sports was there, as I said, but I just had to put a little bit more into it. Those trophies that you would see behind there predominantly would have been from camps that we went to and would have been tournaments that we've participated to. We are touted the #1 junior team in Guyana, and if not the #1 senior team, because we're also linked up with the PMTC alumni. So the past apprentices would still return and participate with the school in volleyball especially. And we're dubbed as the best team on show in volleyball. Also we participate in under-19 cricket, but for a while we haven't had that, but the children are still playing competitive cricket amongst themselves. In basketball, in the background you would have seen a trophy, a prized possession, where we went to Georgetown and we won that tournament.
Mr. Ned continues to serve at the GuySuCo Training Center.
There were times when I was advised to move off from GuySuCo. But to be honest with you, I couldn't see myself doing that. GuySuCo has the package. And where I lived, it was in close proximity to work. And then with the passing away of my father, I did not want to leave my stepmother alone. She's the person that did everything for me. From age 2, she sent me to school. There's some stories, if I tell you, you would rock back with laughter. But we lived together, her and I. And I wanted to see her go through life. I had opportunities to move on, but I told her, I said, look, Mom, no, I'm going to stay. She's the reason for my being at GuySuCo. That is why I'm still here, because I had to do what I had to do with the understanding intention that one day I might get old too. And in Guyana, you know, you would need that support and assistance. And the good book says that to honor your mother and your father, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee.
His singing ability, though inherited, was discovered in the church.
My mom, my stepmom that I grew up with, she used to sing. I don't know, you guys would have probably heard about John Braffett. That's my relative. I am more or less from a singing family. But then I used to go to church a lot. I was a Sunday school teacher. I conformed in church for First Communion and so on. I was a Lutheran. And every Sunday mornings, especially when it rained, I had to sit with my mom, my dad, my stepbrother. He's a guitarist. He's somewhere in the States now. And we had to sing hymns, we had to sing songs. And not ordinary songs. I had to ensure that I can sing in the alto and the soprano and in the descant and all the other things. And there's where I started off. And suffice it to say, because of poverty to an extent, and I don't want to dwell on that too much, you found that one of my hobbies was reading. Any books I found, I read. Not having money to go to school and enjoy times with friends. So I looked at the other areas that I could have enjoyed myself. And I did a lot of reading. I turned out to be very good at English literature, which they now call the English B. And then I found myself started writing poems. I did poetry. Until now I write poems. And then I started composing songs, which was very simple for me. And then because I knew music, I added music to it. And there's where it started. I recall that in the 90s, the early 90s, when the chutney singing started in Guyana, when it was revamped, sort of, I was called upon to do so. And then it was said that I cannot make it. That was the views of persons. But then, being the person who likes to accept challenges, I took the bull by the horns and I turned up there and I placed second overall. And then I represented Guyana in Trinidad in the national chutney competition. To date, I've sung in the States, I've sung in Trinidad, I've sung in Suriname, I sang in Europe. And I have a reputation for singing there.
Undoubtedly, Mr. Ned is talented and gifted, which provokes the question of whether he is still interested in pursuing a career in one of his other passions.
Well, you're just beginning to twist my head again. When I was growing up, at one time I did boxing in school. Oh, it was excellent, and I said I wanted to be a boxer. And then another time I went on stage in school and I acted a play, and it was excellent, so I wanted to go to Hollywood. And then I sang and I had a standing ovation that was in church. I had to sing the song 4 times. And I said, that's it, I'm going to be a singer, I'm going to sing. And then I played football and cricket and I said, you know, I got to make the World Cup in one of these games. And this is where I'm started. I'm asking you not to let that happen again at this age. So all of the areas I would have checked out, and yes, I thought about singing. They say the older you get, the older the violin, the sweeter the tune. I still think I have a voice to contend with. But because of the work itself here, being a student affairs officer, had I not been here, I would have been traveling more than 31 countries now. But because of the commitment to this job, you have to be here for the kids. People wouldn't see it on the outside. I think that is what is holding me out. However, if the Almighty gives me the chance when I'm finished here, I will continue to sing. Because I like singing, and as I said, I like to propagate the culture to young people. So much so that I do follow up the songs now that they sing, but the good ones anyhow.
He offers these comments in relation to working with young people.
For young people, if you don't find activities, if you don't find things for them to look forward to, that is when situations occur. And I always say, the message that I always leave is that for young people to become adept in the future, so to speak, it's either religion and sports. That's the way out. Yes, we all have to be educated. It's a must. It is good that we're educated. But then being educated, as one guy recently said, that you need to have common sense. You can have all the PhDs and all the what, but having the experience and the common sense is what takes you into the world. And as one boss used to tell me, that you must have your ears to the ground to hear the beats and to know what is happening. You must be able to dodge amongst the raindrops so that you can get wet for survival. So we may study and further career, which is good, but then living the life, having the common sense, having the experiences, it gives you a lot. It takes you very, very far away. And I'd like to leave with young people. Everybody always say, be positive, be positive, be positive. I like to tend to be positive and also to be focused. It is their world. Whatever is offered there now, it is very challenging. That is what they came and they met. So it's an uphill task for them. I would trust that there are persons like me, older folks, who can assist to guide them. The parenting is very, very important, and to guide them, because they wouldn't know which route to take. They are but young. The most you can do is advise them, but advice isn't much. Mentoring, mentorship, and those things are very, very important for the young people now.
Mr. Ned has a bank of experiences to share, and through it all, he has no regrets.
Regrets, regrets, regrets. I'm just remembering that song from Frank Sinatra, and now the end is near. I'm trying to remember if there was any regrets. As I say, yes, I always make it a turnaround. I make it a challenge. I always make it a challenge. And there are some regrets I will not want to air. If you understand. But I don't think there are any regrets so far. I've lived my life. I've lived, there's this poem, if you can hold your head up when all are blaming it upon you. I think I'm the master for that. Many times, often people tell me my skin is thick. And if I were to listen to gossip, or they say if gossip used to kill, if it kills, I would not have been surviving here to tell the story.
Merci beaucoup, Morsu Ned. I hope you're encouraged to make the best out of every situation and to tough it out. There is a silver lining behind every dark cloud. Join me again for more stories next week, right here on Sweet Stories. This brings us to the end of this week's program of GuySuCo Roundup. Thank you for staying tuned and do join us again next week. I'm your host, GuySuCo. Goodbye.